that. So, happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween, guys.
So, you know what we thought, since, what we would do is kind of almost the obligatory, but we're going to do our top 3 Halloween movies or horror movies in general. So, we're going to go through, just kind of tell you why we love them, just give you a brief rundown, and then hope you guys have a safe and happy Halloween. I know we're planning to.
Oh yeah,
eat
some candy, carve some.
Are you dressing up as anything this year?
Oh, not this year. Not this year.
Oh,
I'm going to be handing out candy. I will dress a wiener dog up in something. The wiener dog will be my stand-in.
They're really cute dressed up as something.
Exactly.
They have the body for an outfit.
Yeah, always, always. One will be a little warlock, the other will be a hot dog.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got the kids, so I got one that's going to be Elsa, one that's going to be Jack Sparrow, and hence that I need to try to figure out if I'm going to wear anything this year. Yeah. I may do a little bit of a piratey thing just to.
You could be Jack Sparrow's dad from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Ooh, I don't know if I can do that much drugs.
He's like, I only have so many days to prepare for this.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Keith Richards has been through a whole lifetime, The man has survived the 70s and 80s, and I would say unscathed, but he's still around.
Yeah, he made it to the other end.
Just nobody wants it. It's like, who wants to take this? Not me. So he's still around, bless him. And he actually seems to have a really good sense of humor about it. But
yeah,
let's go ahead and start talking about our movies.
All right.
My movie.
Yep,
I chose so we're in ascending order. So we're starting at our number 3, going to our number 1. So the first movie that I chose is The Abominable Dr. 5, starring Vincent Price.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you stay on here for about 5 seconds, and especially so far this month, you will find out that I am a huge Vincent Price fan. And and I was going through his catalog one year, and I remember watching this and just absolutely falling in love with it. It came out in 1971. It definitely has that late 60s, early 70s vibe to it. It's, everybody is dressed in the iconic kind of clothes, but it's just such a weird story with a weird premise. You have Dr. Phibes, played by the titular character. Dr. Phibes is played by Vincent Price, and he is basically seeking revenge on the team of doctors who brought about the death of his wife. And it is basically that kind of story, and you follow detectives as they go around trying to save the people who they've kind of linked into this. And it's just basically, I think it's about 9 people that he murders in the movie. I tell you what, it's really worth a watch. It's really goofy. It's really wonderful. I wouldn't call it scary, but it is a horror film in and of itself. Vincent Price portrays the character like no one else can, because Vincent Price is a legend.
Yes.
So I definitely put this on here for now. The reason why it's on number 3 and not number 2 is because this purely has, for me, it is purely my movie. Okay. There's no connection to anybody else or anything else. So it just becomes my movie, in terms of nobody in my family watches this. Heavens no. We all have one of those films, and this is it for me, but I tell you what, it's just, it absolutely is one of my favorite Halloween films. I try to watch it at least once during the month of October. So that's mine.
Okay.
Okay.
It looks pretty good, especially the cover art.
I tell you what, it really is. It is, and you have to kind of sit there and go, I'm watching a film from that was probably being filmed in 69, 70, in 70 they were probably post-production or wrapping up or any kind of follow-ups, and then by 71 it was released. But it is it's kooky, man. And I mean, as you can see in the background for part of my Halloween look, I got a picture of Vincent Price and forgive me because I have that release of The Raven, which I read in a Vincent Price inspired, let's call it that, voice. Because again, I love the dude. I think he's one of the coolest people ever. I mean,
amazing actor.
The only reason why I listen to Thriller is to hear him do his poem at the end. I mean, hey, what can I tell you?
He does amazing work. I mean, always did.
Yeah, I mean, even when he wasn't, know. Have you ever seen the Hammer films with the Raven? And it's him, Boris Karloff, who again, another big favorite of mine, and Peter Lorre, and a young Jack Nicholson, by the way. So also a film to watch. It's honorable mention, but I didn't get a picture for it. So because I really didn't think I was going to say anything about it. All right. Okay, well, let's see what Patrick's number 3 is.
All right, guys. So for my number 3, I wanted to go ahead and pick something that, is pretty cool. It's called Darkness Falls. Personally, this is an older movie. A lot of people may not have heard of it. It basically takes the story of the Tooth Fairy and turns it into this really creepy, like evil. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch it, please watch it. It's really good. I mean, in my opinion, it still holds up. A lot of the effects they used were practical. It's really an unsung gem if you get the chance to see it. But basically, light hurts this Tooth Fairy, and anyone who sees her, she has to kill them. So you're only safe if you're in the light once you've seen her. If you go into the darkness, you can and will be killed. She will try to kill you. It has some really good jump scares in it, really good death scenes. Overall, it's just a really good movie. I highly recommend it. If you're just in the mood for a little, supernatural horror, a good jump scare too. And again, the movie's from 2000, 2003. Like I said, it's 20 years old at this point, but it still really holds up. I try to watch it, usually with friends to introduce them to it. And I've never gotten like a sour note or, usually a scare gets somebody. So I'm going to swing it back to Adrian now for his number 2.
All right. So for my number 2, so I think a lot of people are actually going to be quite familiar with this, and it's not this one, by the way. There we go. It is Killer Clowns from Outer Space, 1988's Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Guys, if you haven't been in a spirit Halloween, then that's the only way you won't know about this film, because it has really become a cult classic over the years. And I remember when it came out in 1988, because it used to come out in like an Cinemax and things like that back in the day. And the reason why, I mean, I enjoyed the film immensely when it came out, but the reason why I enjoy it even more than that is because this was one of these films that I used to watch with my mom. Now, there are other horror films, and actually, I didn't think about them until right now, but Killer Clowns definitely takes up a special place in my heart. Um, and you know, it's just really zany when you get this kind of idea of these clowns who are aliens, but they look like clowns, and they use all of the tropes of a clown, but they've been kind of augmented to be horrific, and basically they drink the blood of humans. So like I said, if you haven't seen this, definitely do. It is, I think they've even released like a little game and stuff
Yeah,
like
there's a
that
video
for it
game. There's a
recently.
video game for it. Yeah,
But
very recently. I think it was last year.
yeah, something like that. But that's due to the rise of killer clowns in general. So, but yeah, there's not much else really to say about this other
It's
than
a
it's a
fun movie.
fantastic
It's
show.
a
It's a fun
fun,
movie. Yeah,
yeah,
it not really full of jump scares. It's just full of kind of clown horror.
and it's
Um,
campy.
and it's
It's campy.
comical, you
Yeah.
know. The only weird bit of trivia I found out recently is that some of the clown masks were borrowed from the Ernest Scared Stupid movie and were trolls in that movie. The people that did the makeup basically were the one did this right afterwards and repurposed some of the trolls and turned them into clowns. So, and the thing is, also this is a new thing: is these clowns have names. I didn't know they had names. You got
Yeah.
Shorty, you got Slim, you got, some other ones. But apparently they all have names. You know. So, but I think that's more because this series has just kind of gone on. The show has become the movie. I say show. The movie has become such a cult hit. And I tell you what, has one of the best, movie specific songs you'll ever find with Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So if you haven't heard the theme song, definitely check it out. But all right, we're going to swing it back over to Patrick.
All right, guys. So for my number 2, some people know this movie, some people don't. It's about 10 to 11 years old at this point. It is Mama. So a very good supernatural horror. An entity basically takes care of these 2 children that were orphaned. And it basically goes to show a mother's love never goes away, even from beyond the grave. And really good. I mean, if you're a fan of, eldritch horror, especially, like you're going to get it here. It is extremely creepy. There's some good scares in it. And overall, it's honestly one of the better movies I've seen. It's really good. It's really wonderful. I cannot recommend it enough to people. Overall, I love the movie. My wife loves the movie. I mean, it's been a wonderful, wonderful usual tradition for us to introduce it to people, sit down and watch it. Really good movie. Really good overall movie. And like I said, that's my number 2 pick. I'm going to swing it back to Adrian for his number 1.
All right. So going into my number 1. So this is a Hollywood classic. And I'm huge into the original Universal monsters, but there's something about this movie, the 1932 Mummy starring Boris Karloff and Zita Johann. So I tell you what, the reason why I like this is that whenever I watched it or whenever I was growing up, you always get this image of the mummy, and I had a certain style or image of a mummy, from now, prior in the 80s, you had the monster squads where you had just basically the guy running around in a toilet paper roll. I had the same thing. I even wore a mummy costume one year, and that's all it was just me wearing a suit that looked like, gauze. And then, and that's the image you usually have. Even later on, they kind of kept that up until you get to, say, like the Brendan Fraser movies, when you started talking about the mummy in the 90s. But if you watch this movie, it's something completely different. Actually, the 90s movies are the closer one, funny enough. And you have this thing where you have Boris Karloff playing the mummy, and the mummy comes to life. And but the thing is he doesn't stay some dude wrapped in bandages. He has magical powers, and he goes under the name of Ardak Bey, and it's just really well written. So it's a Carl Lammel film from back in those days, and it just, I don't know, it's magical. I mean, even to this day, even in the modern time, if you watch it, it moves quickly enough. It's not an overlong movie. The acting is stellar. Boris Karloff comes off as this, I mean, he was a tall kind of guy at the time. I mean, he did he played Frankenstein as well. Frankenstein's monster, excuse me. And he plays a very kind of poignant character in this. And I will tell you what, and I also really enjoyed watching Sita Johan in this back then. She didn't really do many films herself, but of course Boris Karloff went on to do tons of other things on top of Frankenstein and the Mummy. Ultimately wound up being your Grinch, from those cartoons. So it just has so much history. It has so much passion and imagery, and that's why it ultimately winds up being my number one, because it's a surprising film even to this day. And then for Patrick's number one, I'll swing it over to him.
Whew. All right, that was a great number one, by the way, man. I mean, The Mummy is a classic monster movie character. I just want to say that is a great number one. So for my number one, I go with Lights Out, which really gets us to, because it deals with darkness. If you have sat here and, most people, most humans, we are afraid of the dark because of the mysteries of what can be inside it. This movie deals with an entity that lives in darkness. And if the lights are on, the entity can't do anything. But the minute the lights are off, all bets are off. And this is a wonderful movie because the entity doesn't necessarily want to hurt people, but if you go against what it wants, it will hurt you and kill you. And the way this is done is masterfully well done. It's one of my favorite movies, and it really goes to show that, I mean, just with the primal fear most humans have of darkness and, what's in the dark, what's out there. I mean, it's just creepy. It's creepy. Great jump scares, amazing ways of doing stuff. I mean, and overall, it is my top movie. It's one of the first movies I ever watched with my wife when we were still dating, and it holds a special place in my heart because we watched it on our first Halloween together. And again, amazingly well done movie. The story's there, the cinematography's good, the practical effects they use are amazing, and overall, I cannot recommend the movie enough. I cannot recommend it enough. So again, that's going to be it for me. I think that's it for Adrian. But those are our top three movies. And again, we just wanted to wish you guys a happy Halloween and share, some, whether it be Monster Mash movies from the old Hammer films, or whether it be some of the more modern movies.
Rules too.
Whether it be some of the more modern movies from the modern age. Overall, Halloween is what you want it to be. And as long as you're having fun and doing it in a safe manner, have fun. Happy Halloween, guys.
Yeah, guys, happy Halloween and enjoy yourself. Hey, share some of your some of the fun that you had in costumes, things like that on the site. I mean, November is a quiet month, so it doesn't mean Halloween has to end on October 31st. It could be all year round if you want. So if that's your passion, that's what you got.
And please share your own favorite horror movies or monster movies or Halloween movies. We would love to hear about them. We'd love to hear whether, you like the older movies like Adrian, or you like legitimate like horror movies like me, or whether you just want, some wonderful family fun Halloween movies like, Nightmare Before Christmas or Halloween Town from the Disney Channel back in the day. It doesn't matter. Like I said, whatever you're into, we'd just love to hear about it.
Yeah. So guys, please, again, like, subscribe, go to our Facebook page, join the community there. Let's share our Halloween with each other. And as we move into Christmas, we get to have a lot of fun with that as well, because there ain't nothing going on in November. So,
But again, guys,
might as well enjoy this holiday.
See you next time.
See you next time, guys. Take it easy. Bye.